All right, well, welcome to the first event of my directorship and the first caffeinated verse of this, I guess, season, we could call it, where we'll have Ann Buxie featuring. So I wanted to start with a haiku I read by Basho early today that was translated by Robert Bly. It's, "The temple bell stops, but the sound keeps coming out of the flowers." The sound keeps coming out of the flowers. That's something that I've been thinking about a lot since I first read it about 6 months ago and recently. So yeah, I see this time that we have here together as a ritual space where we can more deeply explore and share ourselves in a way that I think is rarely afforded to us by mass culture. And I understand and appreciate that we're living in difficult times, especially in the wake of the events in the last week. I hope today and other times that we meet can provide us with at least a kernel of nourishment and openness and healing that I know we all desperately need. I was also reading some of the Sufi poet Rumi last night, translated by Colm Barks. I was struck by a line in his poem, Inward Sky. It says, "Prophets come and go for one reason, to say, human beings, you have a great value inside your form, a seed. Be led by the rose inside the rose. Doubt is part of existence." So how often do we feel doubt when struggling to know what to say or write about throughout our lives? How can we realize and honor the hidden parts of ourselves, the rose inside the rose that we all share in our humanity? Unfortunately, we lost American poet and Nobel laureate Louise Gluck yesterday. She once stated, "The unsaid for me exerts great power." In trying times like these, with war, strife, and conflict reverberating within and around us, how many things do we have within us that are unsaid, that continue to exert power over us, that we may otherwise be able to, even if just to a small extent, release? Gluck also said, "At the end of my suffering, there was a door." And there is always a door, no matter how painful it may be to realize that it hides somewhere, find it, and open it. That to me is the great mystery of life that we all share. So what function can poetry play? And what function can poets enact to assist ourselves and others to awaken to the hidden qualities of the world that wait patiently for discovery? Robert Bly says poetry should talk to the heart in a way it can hear, but how do we also open our hearts to listen? Before introducing our featured reader, I want to share a poem I wrote this last week, some of which was inspired by ongoing conversations I've had with Anne. It's called "Love is a Word the Mouth Can Taste." Uttered, it crashes a thunderbolt into a statue of Adam, flings his marble white head off a cliff edge. Maybe love is a bridge between all bodies, concrete and subtle, self and other, terrestrial and cosmic. You can see it rolling over there, behind a boulder on the beach, licked clean by a wave. Like a tide, love presses out and invites in, open as Eve's body before that first pleasurable bite. Even in Adam's marble lids, the damned can't help but make a beat from their chains. And his posture, the roaring fire of the devil's throne in his heart. In every bed, all the love in the world may one day throw open its branches, connecting us to the naked forest that we'll all return to. The beloved's many faces eyeing us from the trees. Now it is my honour to invite Ann Buxie, who certainly talks to my heart in a way that it hears, up to the podium. After 2 tireless years of providing a platform for others as Poet Laureate, I wanted to feature her to honour her service to the community and to delight and listen to her wonderful poems and wisdom. Anne's quickly become a close friend of mine over the last few months. Our discussions on spirituality, psychology, life, illness, creativity, expression, and all else have deeply nourished and guided me. Each time we hang out, I notice my perspective shift over the following days and week, my intuition deepen, and my thinking sharpen. After she reads, I have a few questions for Anne, and then we'll open the floor to you all for the open mic. So, as if she needed introducing, Ann Buxie, everyone.
Okay, you can hear me. Well, here we go. Ever had a day where all you want is to tell everyone to line up and march straight out of their minds? Maybe we could enter a new conversation with light so clear we see all the way through each other. Another helpful hint. The envelope says, save time. They want to debit my account automatically. And that will save me time? Have you ever tried to stop and auto pay? My time does not want saving. It wants spending, lavished on letters and verses and mopping and sunrise and long cups of whatevers with whoever's. My time wants to gravy every moment, drawling over candlelight, sliding from lips soft with olive oil and other passions, where words fall, just the right ones to save this moment. This is called Night Sworn. Sometimes I wonder which half of my life is more important. For surely it's the night, when sleep's conjuring affirms its ancient oath. Yet when my eyes flutter open in pre-dawn light, I think, not yet. Sink back into dream water. Even as the day looms, I already feel her undertow, hear her breakers crash, her hours tightly scheduled, pre-programmed and overdetermined, stuffed like a wild bird, hours plow from one to-do to the next, as if the day were a competition in which I must scrabble again and again to make something of myself. Surely night's tide prepares me for day's toil. Only when I am fully alone, a little baby in the dark house, do I remember her old love, to trust, to love, to listen. This is called Formalities. How are you, she asked. I would be deceiving her if I did not say fairly crappy. So I did, to her, whom I hadn't seen or spoken to in over a decade. I knew she'd understand, wouldn't reason with me. How can you reason with crap? Instead, she burst into laughter. And I knew she wasn't laughing at me, but at something grander, whatever it was. Laughter, what I needed, a laxative. This is Speaking to the Black Canoe. There's an epigraph by Robert Bringhurst, who wrote the book, The Black Canoe. Bill Reed in the spirit of the Haida Gwaii. A human being holds the positions that human society and the non-human creatures accord him by adoption. Buzzing, howling, rumbling, the black canoe approaches, filled with people, dogfish woman, bear family, wolf, frog, eagle, raven, a cutaneous eruption. It comes, resonant, And I'm boxed here, calloused, where machines whack weeds and drill into earth, where digits determine the day's fate, and the Tao ratchets toward another doom, where I am marketed from waking to dreaming. Yet you, canoe, beached in the courtyard of the Canadian Embassy in Washington, D.C., speak of another destiny. A human is that which comes to him and that which he fulfills. My heart starts paddling. Being as witness. A sign in front of a church asks if I want more meaning in my life. No, I want less meaning. Maybe I've bitten off more than I can chew. And maybe there's too much information. I need things the natural way. No cheery voice telling me very important messages or correcting my route from here to there. Maybe I need to be lost, watching, waiting, the way I feel something when a rainbow appears. Or when I smell a mustard flower nodding on ripples of air, or when a court of bees and butterflies comes to the bush near my window, or when I see the fox dead by the roadside, maggots swarming from her mouth, and bees looking for anything sweet left to suck, reclaiming her body for Earth's sake. Maybe I need to see this. This is called allostasis. When I say fear, I don't mean what may happen when you encounter a snake, the fight or flight response. I mean the fear coiling within contentment. I didn't know it was there, a shadow rising from my wick. I had light enough. I was passing in a house of habit. Then the world knocks, asks me to grow. And I discover a reluctance, a fear keeping me housebound. To grow meant, well, what if? Now I'm asked to sound the deep of me, to reorder my world, to discover how vast the pulse of life turning the wheels of truth, to trust the providence of each day, fear transported into awe. This happens, really happens. So many cues. Sometimes I use a nasal cleaning pot. But first I read and reread the directions. You have to tilt your head just so for the saline solution to wash from one nostril to the other. An image of a woman using the pot demonstrates the proper technique. Why is it that she smiles? As if, even as water trickles from her nose, this is the happiest moment of her life. I don't believe it. I prefer how the chocolate box advertises its contents. Not just with images of chocolates, but showing several with clean bites already taken, as if this is what you must do now. It works, makes me want to bite. This is an embedded command. I wonder how many other embedded commands prompt me. And when I see those green blades pushing up on the third day after a rain, covering the earth with green so green as if wrung from the heart of God, it commands me to rise again, to give it all to the day. Moonish. Once I wrote about you, Moon, but that was before a reading of your withdrawal, receding 1.5 inches a year from Earth. Tonight I watch you, a waxing crescent, a gondola laden with quince gliding into the dark chalice of the sea. Our behavior will become more erratic as you drift away. When my young husband asks what is wrong with me, All I could say was that maybe it was the moon. I just wanted to silence him, and he never said another word, and I returned to my obliquity. Now, in the autumn of our time, we have settled into a lunar regard. This is no delusion, no trifling romance. This is the russet gravity of our love, laden with our histories. This is called appendages, and Claudia Rankin provides the epigraph. The past isn't dead, it's buried in your bodies. I want to wail, to cast myself out loud, but wailing is frowned upon. Get over it, enough already. But grieving springs from deep canyons, whose walls echo until we purge or honor the memories. Once you heard my cry and answered from the bright above with a shriek of your own. Don't tell me hawks cannot feel. Our screams mingled. For a brief moment, we knew each other. Dare I not deplore the annihilations of prairies, of species, of reefs and wetlands? Dare I not harbor this shame? Eat the sop dipped in grief? Bear it to term? Or will I abort again, voice wavering, mouthing pledges before councils? My ear leans toward castor leaves, their hands shriveled and brown, clapping in the wind. This epigraph to a poem entitled Second Wind is by Ralph Waldo Emerson. The experience of each new age requires a new confession, and the world seems always waiting for its poet. I'm not a lost cause. Hubris to suppose I am cause. I'm effect, a cause banging in every cell. Cause has worn through the squabbles. Between 50,000 flowers and 1 pound of honey, the bee. Now I betray myself deliberately. In the fruit, the seed. In the seed, the fruit. A marvel of economy. After all the careless, thoughtless, heartless hours, the expecting and beguiling leave me groped by a familiar ache. Where's the honey? Palo Verde in full bloom scatters yellow. Ants gather the musky fortune. I weep. Hornets pour from my eyes. Between the seed and the fruit, a ripening until we are fit for reaping. Caught in mind drifts, ancient constellations emerge from light toil waters of my being, caressed by inexhaustible theophanies, how the body wants expression. Wait, wait for me. I'm coming, dripping from dawn's baptism in ocean's brine. Feet slap the sand. I run into myself, lap myself. I've left so much of me, wearing one face after another. Hurry, hurry, I'm coming, gathering up every forgotten scrap, each piece plugging me, patching me, legs pumping. I'm coming, the exultation of remembering, stricken thoughtless, curled on the lip of worn dunes. One grain falls and another down the slip face of memory. My heart meteors, a smile on my face as I break, multiply, divide into myself, remembering the furious kindness, this fugue flying me home. All of this, what was it but wooing me onto the dance floor? The last one, besotted. Your hands traced me into another dimension, where every digit and thumping organ was thoroughly welcomed. It left no quarter for shame or hesitation, Those were remnants of a doubted life. In the eternity of before, energy swirled, undetermined, until light shafted into the swirling, tunneling through rock, water, and air. Earth began dreaming, clothing herself, mapped with light, a verse insinuated into every tense. Spontaneously, love burst through my chosen, inherited, made-up fictions. Rewired by love to its cause, I felt the chord of elation, shimmied with happiness, my whole body flowering. I knew then a verdict blesses earth, at once command and promise. Love. I knew then, with the gods jumping in every cell, love was the fullest and the only way to repair myself. It felt so right to be so sure, as if all the armor I had worn to protect myself, to defend myself, to identify myself, melted away. I knew then love's splendid sobriety binding me to its cause. Love, the tide, carrying me, washing the world anew. To be so blossoming, to be so loved, to be fearless in the dance. Thank you, fearless ones. Thank you, library.
I would like to have a few questions with you, Anne, but first I just want to say, thank you, and I feel like I speak on behalf of a lot of us for that. Just appreciate how rich and heartfelt and humorous at times and transformative your poetry really is. And while you were reading, I was trying to capture some of the things that you were saying to echo them back, to give them, a highlight, but I'm also I just kind of wanted to keep writing the whole poem down. So, a few different things like I'm effect, a cause banging at every cell, the long cups of whatever with whoever, where words fall, just the ones to save this moment, the dark chalice of the sea. I could go on and on, but that was really special to hear you up there and reading, your body of work, which I think is fantastic, which I think leads into my first question is, I know you got your PhD from the Pacifica Institute, and I really wanted to know, how being there and studying what you did there has lent itself to your understanding of who you are and the poetry that you write.
Oh yeah, it did affect me going to graduate school, because it opened my eyes to ways of thinking. But the first course I took was Hinduism, then Buddhism. That's a little bit of a different way of looking at the world, and exposed to so many more gods, and the world all of a sudden just broke open into one holy thing, the gods banging in every cell, so to speak. So it was huge. To go back to school also when you're in your later years and be there because you want to be there, not because you're supposed to be there.
Thank you, and I think, this goes some way to explaining the next question. I notice one of the key recurring, words and themes is light, and is a transformative experience. Do you find yourself going through a transformative experience and then writing about it, or if during the writing it also enacts as a vessel of transformation?
I think that's why I'm looking forward to your ripple effect workshops, because writing helps me give some kind of meaning to what I'm going through. Isn't that why we all write? At least it's why I write. I'm trying to explain to myself something that's going on and put it in a shape that I can, take a look at, and then I can go from there. I mean, it's not, I used to say, this is my story. I'm not sticking to it. We write a poem, but it's always evolving, where we are. That's what, I realized a long time ago that we're all special effects. We're all caused by, in my world, something holy that sent us here. And so all our lives are special effects. I just love to think of us like that.
Thank you. And I also know that you're a big lover of etymology and the root of where words come from. And there's a few different words that we've discussed in our conversations, ritual being one of them. But I was wondering how understanding some of the roots of language have enriched your experience of the world and enriched your appreciation and dialogue with language itself.
It made me really suspect of how we use words or how they're misused, like the word convenient. How we've corrupted that word. I have a single stall shower where I shower, right? That's not convenient. A bathhouse is convenient, where you gather. Convenient means to bring together, to come together. And we have all these single family homes, and it seems that we think of those things as convenience, but really they're not. Barn raising, building a house together, the weaving, the going to the well. I'm not saying we're going to go back there, but those were activities that brought people together. Now I can just turn on my faucet and the water comes out, and I don't need to go to the well to meet other women to exchange feelings and thoughts. So convenience has really been corrupted to me, I think. So I'm suspicious of a lot of words, and I'd like to go back to the etymology, because words come from a need that we have to say something. So anyway, if I answered, I don't know.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I wonder if then we could call this meeting here at Caffeinated Verse convenient as a gathering.
Yes.
All right.
This is convenient.
This is convenient despite the traffic, because that's the new usage. I want to open up if anyone else has questions for Ann, please.
I have a question.
Okay.
And the poem that you wrote about looking at the moon, and your husband was young, and then now present time. So
Right.
Tell me about that a little more. Where you were.
Well, you know what? I wrote it a while ago, and I remembered at the time that Rick just asked me, what's wrong with you? And I didn't feel like taking the time to answer him then. I was young, so I just offhandedly said, maybe it's the moon. And what could he say? He was just quiet. And then it's so many years later that I read the article about the moon is actually receding from the earth an inch and a half a year. And our seasons and everything are going to become more erratic as she does that. And probably even personally, who knows? And I just felt there was something about that I wanted to say. The kind of lunar regard that you settle into. We've weathered so much, when you're in a relationship for this long. We had 50 years last year, 50 years together, full of misunderstandings and all that. But here we are. Thanks, Kate.
Oh, yes.
Good to see you.
And may I share with everyone how I met you?
Yeah.
It was in 2009, after one of the 2007 fire, and I had lost my home, and I was really, really shattered. I had to move to Japan, And I picked up my local paper. I grew up here in Malibu. I picked up the paper, and it said in things to do, come to our house and hear stories. And I looked at that and I thought, wow. And it gave a number, and so I called. And Ann picked up the phone, and I said, hi, I'm calling about this storytelling. And she said, yes, hurry, come on, here's my address. And hung up on me. And I wrote the address down, and I got in my car, and I drove to Ann and Rick's. And since then, Ann and Rick have helped put me together. All these little pieces that went up in flames. You know, she's made me laugh, she's made me cry, Rick's made me laugh, you know. But also, Ann has given me community. And for that, I'm so grateful, Ann.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. You know, you were just saying how we all help put each other together. And when we gather like this, and in the workshops that Megan's going to give, it's part of how we all help put each other together, because we begin to understand each other. Because if you don't understand each other, you're going to be trying to put the wrong pieces in the wrong place. And so the understanding that we get from each other through our poetry, through sharing our stories, just through being together, I think helps make peace in the world. And I think peace is an okay thing to strive for. Yeah, so thanks, Kate.
Anyone else?
Hi, Cynthia.
Hi, Ann, that was amazing. I'm so glad I got the chance to hear that. Thank you. Did Louise Witt ever inspire you or shape you? She's just an amazing poet. She won the Nobel in 2020 when she wrote Wild Iris, and we lost her yesterday.
Yeah. Nathan was saying that in his
Oh, we were
introduction.
talking about her earlier.
I do like her, but I never read her. But then I found her book, that book, and I read some of it after we met last time. But, you know, I mean, there are so many poets. I have read so few of them, and I've been really inspired by the people I've been in workshops with, and I've been inspired by what I call wisdom texts. The Sikhs have their Guru Granth, their wisdom text is translated into 4 volumes, and the Buddhist flower ornament. I mean, there's so much in just life every day. You go out and you're surrounded by nature's embedded commands. The flowers are blooming. Makes me think, well, maybe I ought to do that too. Not just sit around griping or whatever, you know. So I've just the New York Times, their articles give me a lot to respond to from time to time. You know, we all do. We respond to each other, we respond to poets, we respond to whatever strikes us that we need that day.
I have a question and I guess a comment as well, which is you have a very a voice that speaks to the listener, that's very personal, and it's very much well, anyway, everyone knows what I'm talking about. How did you develop that style and have the courage to sort of just be like right out there, like this is what I think of this mundane thing, and make it so incredibly entertaining and deep?
You know, you just decide to do it if that's all you have to do. I read the woman, Robin Wall Kimmerer wrote Braiding Sweetgrass, and in an article in the New York Times Magazine interviewed her, and she said it's important to feel that we have some agency, you know, that we can do something, because the world is falling apart. Some people, I mean, we need to feel that we're doing something, and poetry is the one thing I could do, you know. I mean, we're not going to all hit the streets and go marching, and we're not going to, you know, it's important to do that. If it's planting a garden was her example. Even if it's just planting a garden, it gives you some control. You're being an agent. You're doing something, not just drowning in frustration or sorrow or sadness or grief. And I think it's important to have agency, and if this is one way to do it, as a poet, using your words, gathering them together and hoping they release some kind of bouquet like a truffle, then you do that. And when you get up and do it, you realize that the more you're yourself, you know, an actress once said, the more vulnerable I become, the more successful I am. And that's, yeah, we're all pretty much the same anyway, you know. So it just, and it doesn't matter to me so much unless I get to that point where I can reveal some things. Because why, you know, I hope that answers some of it. Yeah. And besides that, you're the authority of your life. And authority is an interesting word. It comes from author. Author etymologically means to grow.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're all here to grow it ourselves.
Do we have any other questions or comments?
Thanks for coming. It's going to be good to hear your
Yeah.
open mic.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh.
Let's see, where do I want to? How I found out about this was last weekend, and I don't really know much about either of you, but I was inspired by the article in the newspaper, so
Oh, great.
I came to grow. And I was so struck by your presence and the word at the end of just fearlessness, you know, was really meant a lot to me because I think I carry a lot of fear, so I try to push through it just to ask a question or speak. And I don't know, it just struck me, your presence and just like unapologetic, you know, just being yourself was so, I don't know, it just meant a lot to me just to.
Well, hooray! Good. I'm glad to hear that.
And I have one technique question. I heard it's good to rewrite, but I just wonder what you think about that. Like,
Oh
go
yeah,
back and
I like rewriting. Once in a while, it'll come out pretty much the way it's supposed to be, the way I want it. But so often, you just go over and over until you get what you really want. Find the word or find the image. The image will come to you that you need. It'll drop in. And so, yeah, rewriting is fun. Yeah.
And I think it holds as much creativity in the editing or rewriting as the initial writing spurt does. So I think it's really integral to, you know, getting the poem to where you want it to be. So I agree.
I mean, I worked on this haiku a little bit because I wanted to say exactly what I said, and that had to take some rewriting because you have to fit it in 17 syllables. But it was important to me to do it. It is, I might not be what I was, but I'm becoming what I've never been. That helped me get a handle on where I was now. You know, Tracy, I interrupted.
Oh, you didn't interrupt. It was
Oh.
great, and I love haiku. Thank you. And maybe Nathan, you can comment on this too. I help people with their writing as well as I write. There's a lot of duality between what I call the sacred yellow pad and people wanting to write on the computer. And I try to encourage this. And I wonder if you have any opinions about that. Or thoughts on it.
Would you like to take first?
Yeah, you can go first.
Okay. I value the tactile nature of handwriting, and I think there's something unique that you're printing onto a page that loses its uniqueness while typing.
Yeah.
However, I think it's whatever works for an individual, and if it's typing or tapping, or not writing, you should be typing and tapping, I think, to get there. And there are times, it depends, right? Like, I've been out in LA Fitness before and something's come to me and I've got my phone, so the medium is the notes app on my phone. But I would encourage handwriting. I think it's a skill and an art in itself that we don't want to lose, you know, as humans, as, you know, more and more things become technological, or, you know, with AI writing for us. I think it's resistant to that temptation or force that's enacting against us.
Yeah.
Rachel, did you?
Just to add to that, I mean, Nathan's got his notebook sitting there. Our whole house is full of those notebooks.
Yeah.
I've got loads of pictures of Nathan walking around with them. So I think it's been such a helpful tool for you to always kind of have that by your side and be able to keep these physical documents and physical things to hold that work. So you'd be hard pressed to see Nathan without some sort of notebook in your hand.
Yeah.
Though, very quickly in a conversation with a therapist I used to have, I referred to it as like a child holding a teddy bear.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there's a comfort and a connection that sometimes also needs to be put down to live outside of recording. So it's, speaking of dualities, there's a duality in always having a notepad or a way to write something, when sometimes, in the same way you don't need to always take a picture or a video, the like naked experience in itself can be, you know, what you need to fully be in.
I think you covered it. I like my pencil. The computer can be frustrating sometimes. It will say it needs to update, which means I can't use it. And then I think it's finished updating, and it says, "Wait a minute, we're going to optimize you now." So, you know, my pencil works just fine. Sharpen it and get to work.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. There's a great book on that by Natalie Goldberg called Writing Down the Bones.
Writing down the bones.
Yeah, it's
That's
incredible. Yeah, she's amazing. Video is interesting.
Okay.
Well, I hope you all get to know each other before you leave.
How about we take a 2-minute break, bathroom break if you need it, or to get a drink, and then we'll do the open mic. All right.
Lovely.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you.